Page time card. Joining me for this game will be Christopher Papa Smithy Smith. And Papa Smithy, it is time for another excellent round of OPL action.
Absolutely. 2 rounds down, still many to go. All the teams have played 4 times now. We have Chiefs at the top, but a lot of teams chomping at the bit to catch up.
Yeah, let's actually have a quick check-in with the league standings there as well, just so we can catch you all up at home with what's been going on. As you can see there, right in the top 4, the Chiefs there at 4-0, currently undefeated. Direwolves there, Legacy and Team Immunity.
Yeah, and joining Team Immunity on that 2-2 record, it's Rich Gang, Sudden Fear and Avant-Garde. They've both got a win on the board, but trying to get up the places. And finally, Team 4 not really struggling at the bottom of the table, but still plenty of time to turn their season around.
Yeah, and it's kind of nice. I mean, it is a shortish season, but we have finally had 4 games through for each team, so a lot of matches now being played. We're starting to see a couple trends develop here, and the cream is rising to the top, and some of the teams, while down the bottom, definitely have the chance to fight back through. We are still, as you mentioned, early on in the season.
And we're still on patch 5.2 for a last day here, so still going to see the last stand perhaps of Ari as that first pick, but a lot of flavor, a lot of interesting things coming up in 5.2.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of excitement and really strong players. Well, the Oceanic region really holding its own. So let's highlight some of those really strong players here. Have a look at the MVP standings as well as we followed them from the end of last week. You can see we're starting to break up a little bit now. They can see Perfection sitting tied for first there with 4 other players there. And him, the top laner there from Dial, has played some absolutely fantastic looking League of Legends.
Yeah, some standout performances on Aurelion and Rumble in particular. And Chief Swiffer also of the Chiefs, doing wonderful work. Actually, just an article published on the front of oc.leagueoflegends.com. So he's getting a bit of flavor and also picking up the MVP votes. 2 out of 4 games, MVP.
Yeah, we talk about Chiefs and Dolls. Definitely some of the teams that have looked just really strong so far. Remember, it's only 2 weeks into the OPL, currently starting week 3 now as well. And as we said, we're starting to see some trends emerge, but still lots of room to move as well. And we're going to see who wins up today as well. We've got the schedule for today here as well. So let's see which teams will be bringing you in the first day here of week 3. And it's going to be some good ones. As you can see, the Immunity versus Legacy is our first match there, followed by Legacy versus Direwolves for number 2.
Yeah, 4 on their quest to get on the board against Immunity, and then we finish up the day with Direwolves taking on 4-0 again.
Yeah, and again, so it's going to be a big day for the Wolves here as well. Going to, shake off the 1 loss they had to Chiefs last week and really just try and keep their ascent up the ladder. And Legacy as well, still chasing a lot of points, I believe, also with only the 1 loss.
Yeah, 2 teams, 3-1 coming into this game day. Of course, we're going to see Legacy in the first game, so they're going to get a chance to get a leapfrog on that 3-1 start, but still those top 2 competitors to the Chiefs, at least at this early stage, in action today.
Yeah, of course, they're both playing twice as well, so potential to actually a lot of movement there and really separate second and third, which those top teams are going to be looking for.
Absolutely. You've got to get the points when you can, and why not a better time than today?
Yeah, and of course, if you guys want to wang with your thoughts as well about who you think is going to win, which team you're cheering for, or just what you're enjoying here, get on Twitter and use the hashtag #IamOPL. We'd love to hear your thoughts about what's going on there. Anything you want, whether it's the players that you're liking, the teams that you're barracking for, whatever it is about the OPL, we'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, and even individual game thoughts. I'm sure we're going to have some really big ones tonight, so it's always good to see those reaction tweets come out.
Yeah, going to be some really strong stuff in general. Again, another strong schedule to kick things off here. Very excited, of course, to see Legacy versus Wolves. That should be possibly a highlight of the evening. And
speaking of schedule, if you want to catch up on the schedule that we just presented you or see the future weeks, but also the results and the VODs, go to oce.lolesports.com. Find out all your OPL needs.
Yeah, if you missed any games, of course, you can catch up there. You can check the schedule that's coming up and, of course, see what games you missed because there have been some fantastic games in the OPL so far. And again, teams starting to open up a couple leads. Only 4 games in. Everyone playing a best of 1, but we're starting to see the teams feel each other out. And it's nice to see them back. We had a long season with them away after the last event last year, but things really kicking into high gear for the OPL. And it's going to be a pretty strong first matchup here. We mentioned Immunity versus Dives to start things off. Some pretty interesting stat here as well. Sivir seems to be the name of the game for these 2 teams.
Absolutely. I mean, Sivir's been a really popular pick across metas, but these 2 teams are kind of intertwined with that champion. There's a lot of, we look at some of the stats here. There's a lot of information, so we'll pass it slowly. Team Immunity, when they play Sivir, they're 2-0. So Uberbro, in those 2 games combined, 16, 3, and 24, which is a pretty big result, but on the other side, it's also interesting things pastry time.
Yeah, unfortunately, against Sivir, Immunity also have the reverse record there, the 0-2 so far, with both King from Dallas and Mizui there from Avant going 26, 8, and 24, and even bigger score than Uber was combined 2 Sivir games there as well. So very strong there. It's picked in 100% of Immunity games there as well. And Legacy, interestingly, they're 0-1 against Sivir as well, with Radiant playing it in their only loss so far in the OPL.
It's just interesting to see that AD carry. We've seen kind of different champions workshopped against Sivir with the varying results of success. You have to think that in this series, it's probably going to be contested. I mean, it's still a very popular pick on 5.2. People are starting to pick up some of the common counter picks, but given those results, I mean, the results don't lie. You have to say, probably going to be a contested pick here. I certainly, personally at least, we'll be surprised to see it fall through the picks and bans.
And I think it's one of those things where we think about these team styles and how they like to play League of Legends. Sivir makes a lot of sense in the comps that they like to run. Legacy we often think of as a very mid-game oriented team that really come through in big team fights and dragon fights, kind of around the 15-20 minute mark, where they really get their comp rolling. And Sivir is very good at doing that.
Yeah, I mean, you think about Immunity as well. Mid to late will probably be where I pigeonhole them. And if anything, like let's say they are both mid to late comps, you have to think that Sivir in the early game, that burst of move speed, it kind of accentuates everything it comes about. And if it can kind of buoy what is a team that's traditionally mid to late game focused into having a bit more impact in that early game, can only set you up for success as the game goes on.
Yeah, and Immunity, well, it's just done very creative things with Sivir in different games. I think everyone at this point, if you haven't seen it, do yourself a favor and go watch it again. The Swain that I Am Cheese managed to play out, one of his trademark champion, that was in a Sivir comp, and that was honestly one of the most effectively built Sivir comps I think we've seen.
Yeah, Cheese was one of the last kind of imports into the OPL, of course, replacing Claire in that mid lane for Immunity. Known for the Swain for the longest time, we thought, okay, are we going to see it? Is it going to be a pocket pick, or is it just going to stay dormant? And when it came out, it was massive.
It was really strong. We are into Champs League now as well. Immunity versus Legacy here for our first matchup. Immunity on the blue side for this best of one. Legacy going to be on the red side. And Lysandra Cassidy, the first two bans here.
So some very standard bans to start things out. Nothing surprising. They're both flex picks, both very strong, both with gap closes that Janna can't deal with. And of course, Janna, not a thing we thought we'd say this season, but Janna actually a T-Gun special.
I mean, it's funny because both EGM and T-Gun are sometimes characterized as aggressive support players, I think is fair, but they both had decent success on John. I think T-Gun surprisingly successful, obviously had that big game where he kind of had to show up on the champion. He did show up there as well, but the bans do continue. Kalista now going to get banned away from Tallywacker as well, and Ari, very sensible ban there by Legacy.
And Tallywacker, of course, we can check in with that newly AD carry, former top laner, known for those aggressive top laners, keeping it up with the short-range AD carries. Kalista, her potential is just so damn high. She does so many things so impressively in late-game team fights, especially when you pick up that Hurricane, which has kind of become the de facto build to really get those AoE Ren sets down. So it makes sense to ban her away. So powerful in lane. If you don't deal with her in the laning phase, but even if you leave her unchecked in team fights late enough, she can go off.
Yeah, things go bad very quickly, but we do have a third ban. Immunity going to go with the Janna, actually going to take that away. Interesting. After we've had already those two mage bans that you mentioned, they're very good at closing the gap, and Legacy going to get one last ban here.
Yeah, there was a lot of feeling about the Janna pick in that Sudden Fear game last week. There was so much Twitter talk about it. So it's interesting to see them ban it on blue side, electing out of it. I mean, Janna was that disengage that everyone had to pick up to complement their Threshers and Annies and engage supports. But the Queen of Disengage going to sit on the sidelines.
Yeah, she will for this game. Nah, the last ban there as well by Legacy, so going to take that away from JK Smithy. Nah, still very strong, of course, despite a couple of tweaks leading into this patch for himself, and Immunity going to get their choice of first pick here. We'll see what it is, and interestingly for me, no real targeted banter against Immunity. We talk a lot about them being a team that's comfortable with certain picks, but it's very standard stuff here from both teams, actually.
I mean, a lot of their off-meta picks, like the Swain, for example, you don't blind pick Swain. I mean, you can, but it's not really the blind pickable chance. Excellent in certain melee matchups, especially Kassadin's always been a famous one. So blind picking Kassadin against Immunity, definitely a risk, as a team found out last time around. But yeah, I mean, they're just considering options. Rek'Sai is available. She's still very, very strong. We've seen a lot of actually successful Rek'Sai play in the OPL so far, so wouldn't be surprised to see her picked up.
Yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, Zahe certainly known for his more aggressive jungles, Lee Sin being the first one that really comes to mind, but had some good games on Rek'Sai and going to take it away here.
Yeah, one of the other big picks, Vi, actually Zahe's struggled on a little bit, so we could see Vi still be picked up, still available in the pool, still really come to the fore, especially with all the Kalista and hyper carry play. Makes a lot of sense for Vi. She works with Sivir, not so good against Sivir, you know, against the Jinxes and the other popular picks that kind of Sivir has ushered into the meta. Vi's a very strong choice.
I mean, I think it's interesting just having Vi open when Kalista's banned, because this is maybe the first time in the OPL we'll see teams really respect Kalista as the champion. You know, she was kind of new last week, and people started playing her and say, okay, she's very strong here. But Morgana and LeBlanc, actually, the first two picks there for Legacy, so...
I mean, it's obviously a very safe support. You have to assume support Morgana coming. Of course, there is the flex. We've already seen a Morgana mid in the OPL this season. We've seen Morgana top in other leagues. So very, very flexible champion. Of course, works so well against Vi. We're mentioning Vi a lot, even though she's not come up in this draft. But it's just funny how Vi comes back into the meta because of those immovable AD carries. So then Morgana comes back into the meta because, of course, she deals with Vi's assault and battery so well. League's just a fun cyclical game sometimes. The meta goes through peaks and troughs all the time.
Yeah, I mean, we talk about Janna and how She's so good at disengaging, sorry. You know, a lot of the hide engage champions are now getting banned out. Cass and Lissandra, and I think we can add Vi to that list as well. So not super surprised to see the ban there, but Immunity will get 2 more picks here. 10 seconds left for them to pick. Very curious to see what they want to go with. Immunity's drafting so far, apart from maybe one botched game in the early weeks, has been very impressive.
Their first time out, they really didn't have the wave clear to kind of sustain against a Sivir comp, so it was one of their Sivir losses against came there. But Sivir, we mentioned her a lot. Here it is, and it's probably the most prototypical Sivir lane. I love Sivir Annie. There's so much synergy between the two. Because, okay, you're getting him fast, you can get that flash Tibbers off, but with the extra movement speed, it lasts so long that you can get a second rotation of spells out and potentially get another AoE stun down. So a lot of synergy between those two champs, and just plenty of burst too.
Yeah, I think when we think of Sivir and what kind of comp Sivir enables, or what kind of champions, I feel like short-range mages come up a lot in that list.
And CC supports especially. They just want that extra help to get into the back line. Sivir provides it.
Yeah, nice stuff there. And of course, Legacy have 3rd and 4th picks to make now as well. We'll see what they do want to go for. Quite a few champions open. I guess most of the notable ones already banned out, but Jarvan still available here as well. Lee Sin, another big jungler, but we started to see a shift away from that top tier of junglers, it feels like.
The jungle pool is definitely evolving and changing. It's not so much the early skirmishes. I mean, even when we see Lee Sin, sometimes it's not level 3, level 4 ganking Lee Sin. It's a more passive Lee Sin. But Jarvan, he's still the prince of the jungle. Bad pun intended. He still does so many things well that he's a common pick, but actually they've hovered Jarvan and have gone with Elise. And Elise, she's seen a couple of little buffs in the last few patches, but people certainly are still a bit reticent to bring her out. I mean, she was so popular for so long, and then when she had all those damage nerfs, she fell away. She still has a very, very good early game skirmishing. Legacy pulling it out here suggests to me at least they're going to want to really use this Elise pick to snowball the early mid game, because in the late in the early mid game, because in the late game team fights, Elise, just with her lack of CC, does fall away.
Yeah, and those are the picks, of course. We have the Sion there, probably for the top lane there for Kudrid. And Elise, of course, likely, again, going into the jungle, given the picks we've already gotten. And I like that you mentioned popularity of that Elise champion. She was played, as you said, for a long time. And that's a champion that Carbon, honestly, just feels very comfortable on.
Yeah, I mean, there was still a lot of picks available. The Vi we mentioned was still available. Not that great against Sivir, so I can understand why they didn't go with it. So with the pools in the state they are, it's understandable to see an Elise, but Elise is one of those champions where, as the meta currently is, you kind of need to have a pre-packaged plan for the Elise pick, because if you just let the game kind of play itself out, get to the late game, it just doesn't offer that much.
Yeah, and Immunity here do actually lock it in. Aurelia there for JK Smithy, one of his comfort champions, but Zilean is the last pick here for Immunity. I feel like there's a theme going on in this comp, Papa Smithy.
I mean, look, it's going to be a Turbo Aurelia, I think, is what they're focusing on here. With all the speed buffs, my goodness, it's going to be a very, very fast Aurelia. Potentially go a bit more damage-centric on the Rek'Sai build. I guess my question is it going to be Zilean mid against LeBlanc? Because that sounds painful.
I mean, potentially. The early levels certainly don't sound particularly good.
No, I mean, it's a very difficult matchup. I mean, with the silence removed, it has a little bit more potential in the mid. But, I mean, in terms of lane matchups, a squishy mage who doesn't always want to itemize into Rod of Ages against a burst assassin, it's not the most appealing matchup, at least.
But I guess at least on Zilean's side, once he gets his ultimate, LeBlanc doesn't really do anything other than push waves and try and run.
I mean, in previous metas, especially when DFG was popular on LeBlanc, excellent counter to single target burst. But with the kind of more AoE-centric builds, you see a lot more people focusing on that Mimic Distortion doing AoE damage. Not as binary decision-making against a LeBlanc. But you can understand in team fights does deal with a lot of what LeBlanc puts out, that mid-game pick potential.
Yeah, and the last pick here as well, actually, it is Graves, not Corki there, but Talibek. I hovered the Corki for a bit, but going to go back to something he's actually had quite a bit of success on already in the OPL. It's the very aggressive Graves.
I mean, Talibek really fits with the Graves kind of personality and the playstyle of that champion. It does complement a lot of the picks he used to bring out in top lane, and he's played it to a great extent. So with the Callista band, another one of his go-to picks, makes sense to go with Graves. Has a even-ish laning phase with Sivir. Sivir can be really on the ball with her spell shield timing and spell shield a lot of damage, but it's very even. They do similar things in the mid-game. A lot of power in the mid-game, I think, is the story from both these comps.
And your question, I guess, was answered about the team comps here as well. The final bit for Immunity, it is actually Zilean mid. So Andy Sivir in the bottom lane, and Cheese is going to take a very different champion for himself.
I mean, Zilean's it's just a weird pick, right? Zilean's been around a long time and seen so few tweaks, but goes through those periods of epic popularity. I mean, I believe Worlds, he was seeing a bit of play, especially before Worlds in the last few OGN seasons. Everyone seemed to pick up Zilean, and it was one of those situations where you looked at the patch notes and you're like, where did this come from? Like, nothing was really tweaked about him. He does, I mean, look, he has a Revive ultimate, which can negate so much of pick comp. So it makes sense, I guess, if you're looking in the mid-game, having the ability to bring back a priority member, especially this Aurelia with the double speed boost could be insane in the late game. But he's just a limited champion because, look, if he doesn't get that chrono shift off on the right member or it's kited out, he just doesn't offer a lot. He only has one damaging spells. He has a lot of utility, but they're really leaning on the off tanks, the Aurelia and Rek'Sai, to complement Sivir here. And they're against a Scion, which Sivir cannot bust through. Sivir is not a great tank buster. And this Scion, if he goes off, if he gets very, very tanky, I feel like Immunity are going to struggle to really break through that front line.
I mean, do you feel like Zilean maybe adds another element here? We often talk about enabling bruisers. I think Zilean Rengar was very popular back at Worlds we were talking about. We did see a bit more Zilean. Do you feel like Sivir gets any benefit at all? Because the other end is that to give that revival ulti to your hyper carry and then let them carry through much longer team fights.
But certainly not Sivir. I mean, Sivir's not a big hyper carry. Her tank busting is difficult because she doesn't have a steroid. I mean, she does have the ultimate passive, which gives her a bit of attack, but it doesn't have a true steroids. It's to some degree Graves, although he suffers from low range. But for example, a late game Caitlyn with the headshot can really deal with a frontline tank like Sion. Obviously, the Tristanas of the world, well, at least reworked Tristana is a bit different, but pre-reworked Tristana, anyone with a big attack speed steroid is what you want to deal with a Sion. It's still going to be wonky and hard because he's so damn tanky. But I mean, I have to think it's for the divers, it's for the frontliners here. Because the thing about having a Zilean is it opens up build paths. If you want to go full damage Rek'Sai and you have that support like a Zilean, it does open up. It's still risky. It's still relying on a split-second timing window from your mid laner, but it's a possibility.
Okay, I mean, so we've talked a little bit about immunities. Certainly a bit of comfort here. We talk about the Sivir for that team and how important it is to them. We talk about J.K. Smith as Aurelia as well. Big comfort pick for them. What do you think of Legacy's draft?
I mean, Legacy's draft has a lot of good things going about it because the one time we kind of questioned Legacy's picks was back in the first game against Chiefs, where they went for late game scaling and it didn't quite work out for them. The game was kind of played on Chiefs' terms the whole time. Again, they've gone for the mid game here. Once you pick up Elise, you're committed to the mid game because that's where her power spike kind of early in mid game is when her power spike begins and ends. LeBlanc is an excellent champion in the mid game. You can see the roam combination of the amount of CC and burst damage that an Elise LeBlanc roam can put out is very high. And Zilean struggles to clear waves. So if he can actually start pushing the wave out at level 6, the LeBlanc I'm speaking about, Choo-Choo's here, and they go on the roam, they can really kind of set themselves up with a lot of objectives in the mid game. So I really do like the mid game power there. They, of course, have the ultra tank of all tanks in the top lane, and that's with Mundo existing in this world. But Sion feels like he's even tankier than Mundo at times, depending on how he goes with all his passive scaling. Graves Morgana are very strong. Again, pick-centric bottom lane. There's a lot of synergy with this Elise pick. But if they let it go too long, their comp will fall off. They have the short-range Graves, the damage potential of LeBlanc in the late game, unreliable but still potentially high. It's the king of the mid game here, which is exciting because it means that action has to come because both teams are going to have to feel that they have to be proactive to get the most out of their comp.
Yeah, that's kind of what the Zealand, I guess, is a bit weird for me, but maybe they're just, like you mentioned, going all in on having very strong early to mid game and trying to see what happens. And you know, when two teams butt head like that, especially teams like this, which have played each other quite a few times, although granted with a couple of roster changes here and there, there could be fireworks. And I'm personally excited to see Carbon's Elise. He hasn't played it in quite a while. You mentioned there's been changes. He was still playing it after, I guess, the most influential nerf, which was the Cocoon one, where the width got short by quite a bit. So he's a very practiced Elise player here. So if anyone's going to bring Elise onto the OPL stage, I think it has to be a player like Carbon.
I mean, her clear was buffed. I believe it was extra monster damage that came through in the last patch. So again, going to slightly kill those monsters faster. Going to be a bit better power time. Can hit those lanes at the right clip. And always has been pretty sustainable, of course, having her Spiderlings tank up the aggro. So I do like the Elise pick, but again, it does pigeonhole your comp a little bit to the mid game. You have to give the Aurelias of the world the late game advantage when Elise is in the game.
And yeah, we mentioned earlier already, J.K. Smith going to take it into a pretty interesting matchup. You have to think. I mean, Sion, does he just split every lane? Is that what we're up to with Sion as far as top lane matchups go?
That's kind of the feeling I get. It's not the Ari necessarily of top lane. He's just so immovable. He's like, I mean, kind of the thing I get, and I talk to a lot of pros about Sion, because look, he's amusing, he's fun to watch, his abilities are funny. You should look up their names, they're also quite hilarious. We're trying to practice ourselves on them, but the E one especially, I don't know about that one.
It's interesting, to say the least.
But the one thing you can say is reliable. He'll always do his job. He'll always go, he'll always get tanky, whether it's passively or with items. I kind of think of him as a permanent frozen heart in the enemies. Yeah. You know, he gets in people's face. He has a frozen heart on a Warmong's. You kind of put your hands up. He's not doing a lot of damage, but he's disrupting a lot. And he enables your carries because people's positioning against the Sion is difficult. I mean, it's not just the ultimate. It's just dealing with all the CC in his kit. He's got a big model size, so you click on him a lot. He does a lot of things. but it doesn't do damage, that's for sure.
No, he just gets in the way. And I like that you mentioned the CC, because for me, that is what Sion's about. Being tanky, getting in the face, and helping apply CC. And for me, the best style is when you're able to stack that CC really well. So we'll have a quick look at the combos as we move in. But we are onto the Rift here for Game 1. Immunity on the blue side versus Legacy on the red. And there is I Am Cheese, the newest member of the team. And he's playing mid-Zealand in his first OPL game of the week.
Not quite the deep dive that Swain was necessarily, but still a very, very intriguing pick. I want to watch this Zillion versus LeBlanc mid lane matchup. I feel like he's going to struggle to control the wave, just because if you double bond the minion wave, A, you use a lot of mana, and B, you have no harass left for LeBlanc, who always seems to have harass in spades. I think it'll be a struggle. He's gone for Ignite, so he's clearly confident.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually going to mention that in the draft, but I'm glad you brought it up here. Yeah, I mean, not afraid, not going to take a barrier, which would be decent here against a big burst champion like LeBlanc. Instead, going to opt for the aggressive choice. If there's one thing we can maybe say about Cheese as a player, he does like to be quite aggressive in his mid lane.
He absolutely does. We see Legacy are really aggressively invading here. They have a Sion, so I feel like they might want to start doing some jungle camp action. So maybe an invade is the flavor of the day.
Yeah, we'll have to see here. Boomerang Blade not quite able to hit, but Immunity do have a ward there, actually. So looks like Legacy are going to rotate in towards the top side. Cardred going to have a bit of a dance. And maybe they'll look to take away a camp. You see this. No, never mind. It's actually his side. But this is a lot with Sions. They do like to get early in a camp, use their passive, and then port up to top lane.
And kind of the big point of contention is, do you start with Q or W? Your Q clears a bit faster, but you're kind of always guaranteed to pick up the camp just because you do so much damage when your passive is up. And W, of course, gives you the health gain. So I think even though it's more of a struggle, starting W as Sion in picking up the Raptors, probably an advantage.
Well, looks like Zahir as well going to clean out his camps. Krug's coming through. They're going to move into towards a red buff, and Carbon going to do the opposite here, but start on the same side of the jungle, going into Gromp plus blue, and Cardred is going to kill himself on the Sion. Don't worry, it's all on purpose, and he'll take away the Raptor camp here.
He starts W, of course, so he does get the bonus health from clearing this camp. Going to pick instant level 2. We should probably go and look up the top lane just to see how many minions he's going to be missing. So far, the melees are dead. He will teleport to the top. He's going to miss a ranged creep as well. He's still going to have an experience advantage, but it's not quite the massive advantage if he'd managed to get there just with the melees going.
Yeah, and that's sort of the choice, is you have to like, do I want to clear the camp quickly or do I want a little bit of extra benefit? So Cardred does do the smart thing, take away an early camp for himself, doesn't disrupt Carbon too much. And down the bottom, Tallywacker, and actually Supernova here for I Am, so looks like we had a substitution actually for the team.
Yeah, we didn't even mention that. That's interesting.
No, it just doesn't seem Uberoa showing up, but no, going to be playing without him for today. We'll see what happens here, at least in this first game. J.K. Smithy, of course, back in his normal home in the top lane here. Starting to harass down the side, but there you see him throwing the minions into Aurelia, and it is comical, but it's also quite effective.
Absolutely. Look, he splits a lot of lanes. He's very... the word reliable is what I mentioned before. It's important because the Malphites of the world can be abused. Like, some of those champions are a bit limited, but Sion has ranged wave clear with his E. He has a lot of wave clear on his Q if he's able to just channel it up. Does have very high base damages. He does his job very reliably, so even though you kind of smile watching him, he fits a role and does it reliably, and that's not something you can say about most of the champions in the league.
No Carbon, they're going to come in towards the mid. Cheese does get locked up there by the chains. Carbon going to dive in, and that is such an easy gank there. Choo-Choo's gets first blood.
Yeah, the low base stats for Zillion cannot be overstated. It comes through right there as he's able to be taken down just with the first round of burst from both Choo-Choos and Carbon. Could be a difficult lane in the mid lane for Cheese.
Yeah, we already talked about the fact that LeBlanc going to look to get very aggressive in towards the mid lane, and with Carbon, they're kind of sitting around as well. The one thing at least does do Papa Smithy, hadn't been played in a while, she still ganks very effectively.
Yeah, she still does a lot of damage, still has the double round of spells, can do a lot more burst damage than most junglers at level 3. The early game is definitely going into Legacy's advantage, and Elise can definitely snowball a lead into mid game.
Yeah, it feels true of a lot of the lanes here as well. We're going to have Siva play back here with Annie there as well. Tigon does have a stun ready to go, but we're going to have Siva clear out the waves pretty comfortably here. And it's kind of an interesting balance for Graves here, because you're right. I think you mentioned it in the drop, but it's all about timing that spell shield.
And Graves in general, he likes to play lanes aggressively. He likes to be under the enemy turret just so he doesn't get sacrificed himself with the short range. Of course, 525 range versus 500 range in bottom lane, so not a lot of range to speak of between the two of them. But both champions more confident being played aggressively pushing the enemy lane. And against an Elise, you can see that Supernova and Tigon kind of have to respect the jungle pressure coming out of Legacy.
Yeah, good stun though, actually getting a bit of damage back on a Tallywacker. So nice trade back and forth here from Immunity bottom lane. But I think EGM even throwing those bindings towards Tigon specifically because, of course, Annie can't spell shield that burst. So nice to see both lanes playing very nice here. In the CS, actually a little bit of a lead there for Graves. Tallywacker up so far, 34-28.
I mean, that's what we'd expect if you're the one pushing the lane, of course. Don't have to deal with the turret aggro changing or any sort of those issues in the bottom lane. As in the mid lane, she's again eating a lot of damage.
Yeah, Choo Choo's really nice. He actually able to just lock down Cheese for a bit of extra harass. So getting aggressive, going to use that mana pool, probably look to recall here. And we'll see what he has after that first blood.
Yeah, we have to have a look. Sitting on about 15, 20 gold, so a lot of options. Probably not going to be the needless large rod, maybe too much aggression. You have to expect maybe the Athenes. You kind of have to respect the early game damage coming out of Zilean, even though he does have only one damaging spell. Of course, the double bomb does do a lot of base damage early, so an Athenes perhaps just to be a little bit more survivable in the mid, but a Merolnomicon probably wouldn't surprise me either.
Yeah, not the Chelsea yet, but that looks like it will be in the Athenes eventually there with the null-magic mantle. So Vintage Codex there for a bit of extra aggression, and T-Gun getting low in the bottom lane as well, forced to chug a few more of those pots down, and this is part of the issue with Anna. You've got good burst, but you're kind of short range. Every time you get caught by a binding, not good news.
And patch 5.2, you know, with the DFG removal, Annie was tweaked a little bit with her kit. She actually only has 10 armor and magic resist on her Molten Shield compared to the previous 20. So in these trades, you kind of have to account for the fact that you are just slightly less survivable in this lane.
We'll have to see what happens here. Again, Tegan on Supernova getting pressure back pretty hard. Eden doing a nice job of zoning here on this Morgana. Pop back into the mid lane there. As you can see, Cheers feeling a little bit of aggression early on. Actually going for a T now, but actually started with double Dorans after that, trying to shake off some of the bursts coming in from the jungle mid combo.
I mean, Zilean has so many mana issues in lane if he has to balance harassing and wave clear. So he wants to auto attack to clear the waves as much as possible, but if he is relegated to using double bomb on the minion wave, will have a lot of mana issues, so I can understand why he's doubled down on mana items. Just delays his damage that much longer.
Yeah, and Legacy are going to do a very smart rotation here in towards the Dragon, actually, and they'll pick that one up with Immunity having no idea, almost getting the steal, actually, so never mind, they did have a ward in the back that Legacy didn't spot, but they will skill the first Dragon. Boomerang Blade goes a little wide.
And you watch on the minion wave, the mini-map, sorry, and you see Zilean under his turret. This is kind of the issue with Zilean, is that balancing harass with wave clear is so difficult. I feel like that's why he's kind of fallen away a little bit, is that his wave control in mid is not that good. He really does struggle with wave control. And LeBlanc, a champion who used to have that issue, with the changes to her ultimate, does have a lot of AoE pushing with the Mimic Distortion. So having lane control over the Zilean, a massive boom for the LeBlanc.
Yeah, it's a strong stuff early. Tegan getting low there in the bottom lane as well. But he'll actually now return back to home, and looks like both bottom lanes going to do for a shop. We've got BF Sword already done and the sites doing their free gym. So Legacy looking strong early on.
Yeah, I mean, you can see the CS values in the gold is definitely in Legacy's advantage. Part of that is the implied pressure of having an Elise jungle. I mean, Elise has actually done very well for herself. Already level 5 early, and of course only Rek'Sai available for Zahi, so he's not going to have as much early pressure. We've actually seen quite a lot of ganking Rek'Sais come out, but been much more the passive farming a Rek'Sai player from Zahi so far this game.
Yeah, and not his normal aggressive self, I guess. We talk about Lee Sin being a big champion for him. He was a classic Shaco player, I believe, in solo queue back in the day. Really does tend to favor aggressive junglers, but playing a jungler that's honestly evolved into much more of a control jungler now.
I mean, there's so many control options with Rek'Sai. You can already see the neural network on the minimap, so his side of the jungle very maneuverable when he has the ultimate available there to Zahi. Of course, if you can get ahead, if you can start to move your neural network more further forward, perhaps get Baron or Vision Supremacy. I mean, just the ability to have global pressure with kind of a Nunu-esque flavor. Very impressive, but Chuchu's in this trouble.
He's in trouble. Actually gets stunned up there by Tegan, and that's going to be the kill. Very creative baiting there coming out from Cheese, and didn't even need the ulti, but Chuchu's does go down.
But look at this minimap page. No wards down whatsoever from Legacy 8 minutes into the game. That's just complacency, I'd have to say, to have no wards on the map whatsoever at any point in a competitive game, let alone 9 minutes after the earliest laning phases ended. For 3 people to surprise show themselves in mid, very surprising to me.
Yeah, but a strong room from Tegan for sure. And just the one water dragon there for Legacy, so you're right. Wasn't able to spot that gank coming through, and nicely placed Pink near that choke as well, and Immunity. And to back with a kill there, so able to get that out onto Rek'Sai. Zahi going to get a bit of extra gold for his early game.
Looking at the builds, Athene's Unholy Grail definitely going to pick up for Chuchu's. Wasn't really up in the air once he had the null magic mantle, but definitely confirmed. BF swords on both the AD carries. Siv's struggling, but Supernova the sub, at least he has a BF sword to show for his kind of rough early laning phase.
Yeah, and I mean, I think he'll take the slight loss in the lane there. I mean, hasn't died yet. Tegan actually has an assist after that roam. Almost looked down and thought it was a death. So just fine here. Certainly the lane going to get a bit easier here, but really the issue for Immunity is they just have to dodge these bindings. And I feel like that's what a lot of the early game harass came from in that bottom lane by Legacy.
I mean, Tegan's really doubled down on roaming as he doesn't have an early sightstone. Early sightstone first has been the common rush for competitive supports over boots or any other item, but boots here suggests to me he doesn't want to stay in lane that much because low base stats against the Morgana Graves, the burst potential from 6 onwards. This T-gun is going to be deleted.
Yeah, looking up towards the top side of the map, though, things going a little bit better here. J.K. Smithy has basically even on CS there with the Scion and has come back to lane with his Phage now.
And you can see already the workings towards a Frozen Heart coming out from Scion. That's one item definitely intertwined with this kit. He's going to work on that. It's so effective against the immunity lineup. Rek'Sai, Aurelia, and Sivir, all big auto attackers, all will struggle with the debuff. And of course, the sheer armor stack that's going to come out of this Scion.
And I think, like you mentioned in the pregame as well, it's just so difficult for people to get Scion out of your team. So you always have the Frozen Heart applied.
Absolutely. You can't peel away a man with so many different CCs. With the ultimate, perhaps to negate CC if it's not used for initiation. Is very, very maneuverable around fights, despite his tall, lumbering frame.
Yeah, we'll have to see. J.K. Smith, you're going to keep on clearing out minions in the top side as well. Actually, Carter going to go back and shop there as well. We'll see what he does want to pick up moving in towards, as you mentioned. A bit more of that Frozen Heart here. Just kind of looking down the jungle as well. Warrior already done there for Zahi, so getting a bit out of the extra gold he got from his kill.
Speaking of completed items, at 11 minutes, Frozen Heart completed. It's going to make his laning phase against J.K. Smithy just that much easier. Is maxing the hit-end style first is Aurelia, so will struggle with that debuff. If he had gone for the Equilibrium Strike, of course, would have been able to navigate the armor pickup with the early magic damage, but doubling down on the true damage.
Yeah, and I mean, it's kind of an interesting matchup, and just in general, whenever you take a big armor item into Aurelia, because she does do so much mixed damage as well.
She does, but the mixed damage would have been accentuated with the more Carbon maps. But in mid lane, we're seeing some big trading.
Yeah, Zahi in trouble there. Carbon actually, with Chuchu doing a lot of damage, but Elise has moved back in, comes back down. Cardred actually brought it down here as well, just trying to be disruptive, but Zahi looks like he's going to try and tunnel his way out, and Carbon is low, but no one goes down. Ejim even going to join in there as well. And we'll actually move on there as well. And 4 people come in and no one dies.
Yeah, lots of awkward trading. Both teleports used for no discernible gain. Carbon fell so low. And Chuchu didn't really want to kill off Zahi, but he had to.
Yeah, and we'll just move in there as well. She's actually getting pressured as well. Scion tries to throw a minion at him, but doesn't quite get it done. And Immunity will continue to push back the minions out from under the middle turret here. We also see the Dragon back in 40 seconds now as well. So that'll be ready for Legacy if they want to contest it again. And Zahi, even getting aggressive, might try and get a bit more vision down, see if they can't contest the second Dragon.
Not a lot of vision around Dragon to speak of both ways. You see Ejim already prepping for Dragon, 30 seconds out, getting a pink ward down. So that's a little bit of Dragon security coming out, but definitely not the forward wards for Legacy to get an uncontested second Dragon.
No, not yet. Here, J.K. Smith is even roamed down as well. Actually already used his teleport, so actually hasn't quite come through there yet as well. And hello. We are back here. Just have a quick pause in the game. Seems like Cardred may have had a bit of a disconnect there. So should be back soon, of course. Short that issue out as soon as possible. And second Dragon coming up. Legacy, though, decent early game, but Immunity definitely keeping in this. And I think it's interesting. We've had a pretty passive early game. I feel like a bit of movement there around for the next Dragon to see if we can't get something going. Because obviously Immunity would like to contest to pick up there first. What do you think of the team comps right now as we move into the second Dragon fight?
I mean, you're right in saying it's been a bit uneventful the first 11 minutes, 12 minutes of the game. I think that suits Immunity a little bit more just because they have to deal with an Elise pressure and to actually be even in kills and relatively even in CS against all the early pressure, which of course is the reason you pick up that Elise for the early mid game. They'll be quite happy with the kind of small hole they're in. I feel like their comp scale is that much better against what Legacy are putting forward, so I do like the situation they're in. It's all about this second Dragon. If they can confirm the second Dragon here, Legacy, and snowball towards the third, there's a potential that Zilean and this Immunity comp could fall away, but right now, very evenly poised.
I mean, it's interesting that we talk about scaling. Is it just the Aurelia there on the top side of the map that's really going to kind of push it through the very mid-game centric comp for Legacy?
I mean, there's just a lot about the Aurelia pick. There is, to some degree, peel coming out of Legacy. Of course, Elise in the late game probably going to stand next to the AD carry and try to use the cocoon for peel. But Aurelia will be able to shrug that off. And yeah, Aurelia is the big unknown, I'd say, from the IM comp. Zahi, to some degree, depending on what build path he goes on the Rek'Sai, can also be very impactful. And there's not that much peel available for Legacy. I do like those two champions in the late game, especially with the double speed buffs coming out of Sivir and Zilean.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because Zilean is... I mean, obviously, she's struggling a little bit in the early stages of the lane, but just fine here. I think he'll take the one depth that he does have there, and it was from a very strong gank by Carbon as well, so can't be too disappointed that he has suffered the early kill, especially pre-6 there as well without the ulti, and even baited in for the first kill for his team. So things looking strong, and I'm very curious to see just how this first Dragon fight shakes out, because just kind of looking over, no real major item timings yet for anyone.
No, and speaking again about Cheese, of course, he's doubled down on regen. It's the tier into the double dome, so definitely not a lot of combat stats available. He'll take any sort of lane split or better on this Zilean. I have to assume he picked it just for a safe-ish laning phase. You know, maybe didn't want to go for Lulu and kind of commit himself completely to the supportish mid lane, but much the same flavor coming out of Zilean, barring kind of level 9 where the double bomb does a lot of damage.
And we've talked about Cheese a little bit. Obviously, the Swain, kind of interesting into the LeBlanc there as well. But we were going to mention Xerath. That's something you could have also played here into LeBlanc.
Yeah, Xerath was available. I kind of washed away. So often we see Xerath snapped up whenever he's available. So for him to not go for the long AoE wave clear against LeBlanc, someone who struggles to close the distance against Xerath, I guess interesting.
Yeah, we have to think that Immunity probably have a plan here with this team comp, and as you mentioned, it's kind of Turbo Aurelia coming through, so we'll see how that does develop here. Dragon is live now, though, and both teams going to look to contest for their second in Legacy's case in the first tier for Immunity as well. Zahi going to clear out a wall, but already standing on one. Chuchu's good amount of burst, actually. Doesn't have his ulti yet. It's actually coming back off cooldown. Used it for, I think, a bit of wave clear there in the mid side. But Immunity on top of this Dragon, they absolutely want to fight for this one.
You can tell that by how quickly JK Smithy has rotated down as Aurelia, as we see Sion still walking down bot. So you can see that Immunity have recognized they do not want to give Legacy any sort of mid-game advantage. But with Sion is in the mid, of course, in this kind of open river area, the Unstoppable Onslaught is still a very, very strong force.
I mean, I was going to say, you didn't have to walk. Sion can run down there as well. He absolutely has to. So we'll see what happens here. But the battle for vision around the Dragon pick continues. Tegan actually going to try and poke the water away, but Ejim's able to clear away the pink. And Legacy seem to have taken over control of this pit here. Cheese coming back, like you mentioned, wave clear a little trickier right now. Good stun actually though from Tegan. JK Smithy might look to come in. Zahi even rotating through as well. And both teams might actually just walk in and walk away. Little too afraid to go in 5v5.
Very surprised that Chuchus was able to go back and pick up the Athenes. Actually, big item timings coming out from Legacy. The Athenes and Infinity Edge both completed. So it feels like Sion, drawing aggro into the mid, bought enough time for the soul lanes to significantly ramp up in power. And now I feel like Legacy do want to force this Dragon fight.
Yeah, it makes sense why they're all backing off just for a few seconds there. Chuchu's back at home, getting his shop on and able to return to this lane. Still has a bit of blue buff duration left as well, so we might have a bit of a stalemate here in the mid. Both teams trying to apply pressure in the most obvious area before the Dragon, but Tegan eats a minion there and takes a lot of his health.
Yeah, but Legacy, again, like a moment ago, they would have been reticent to choose a fight, but now with Frozen Heart, Infinity Edge, and Athenes completed, even the completed Jungle Enchant against a Jungle Enchant and just component items across the board from Immunity, they need to recognize they are actually in a power trough. A second after, they were actually looking pretty even.
Yeah, I like the Langwater mid for Legacy as well. Chuchu's just going to poke at Tegan there as well. Not going to overcommit with cooldowns, just wants to get him off there. And Immunity have a pretty interesting choice to make here. You said they shouldn't fight, but they're definitely positioned like they want to.
I mean, they kind of probably feel that they can't give away a second Dragon just because of the comps, just because they both would have identified the mid-game as an objective. It's just respecting the item timings, as Tegan takes a nice burst of damage, but with 30% CDR already up for Chuchus, that ultimate will be available very soon.
Yeah, good use of the ulti there by Chuchus just to get some poke down. Rex are going to ult back in though. Looks like Zai's actually going for a bit of combat sets here, buying an item. Rotation down the bottom, it does give them the tower, but JK Smithy diving in onto Kadra gets slowed by the Sion E there as well. Deters them with the Q. And Immunity still trying to get some control over the pit, but there are so many red wards around this area.
And that is the last person you want to commit to engaging on is the Sion. Just shrugs off the damage. It's low in mana, so maybe doesn't want to ult. But Sion will do his job in this team fight with that Frozen Heart.
Yeah, there's been a lot of staggered shopping. Chuchu's going to go and get stunned though. Tegan there with a really well-timed Tibbers. And he's actually popped over the top. Does actually die to Cheese there, who had the bomb going as well. Now Kadra tanking a lot of damage. Went in a little early. It's forced to flash. Tallywacker, though, does get the kill and support with his ulti, but that might not be enough there. Basically 2 for 2 there with people forced to back there. Carbon also not in the area. Zahi gets a good knock up. Ejim going to get jumped on now. So it goes down to JK Smithy in Immunity. Against all odds, almost claim control of the Dragon Pit.
The flash unburrow from Zahi was really important. They needed to get a second pick to confirm the Dragon, even though it was a support for mid-trade. A lot of power available on the other Legacy members. You can see they're not ready to give up this Dragon yet.
Yeah, they're going back in here. The Dragon going to get low. Carbon wants it, but Rek'Sai gets a smite off, and now at least way too far forward. Does repel, but is just going to fall back into a stack of Immunity members, and Supernova on the Sivir going to claim his first kill of the game.
Yeah, it was ill-advised from Carbon. He just wanted to double down and give themselves a third Dragon to shoot for. At 1-1, a lot of their early pressure is undone. They still have to play and really convince me of the Zilean pick, but their overall play around Dragon was strong. I really was impressed that JK Smithy understood that to get back on the Dragon board, he'd need to rotate first and help his team deny vision. Because if you're trying to clear vision as a squishy support against a LeBlanc, you're not going to clear any vision. You're going to be dead.
No, and Tegan made exactly the right play there, stunning Choo-Choo's up, and the rest of the team is ready to come in. And you mentioned J.K. Smithy rotating early. He's looking very strong right now. We mentioned the quick frozen half for Carter. Now it's the Spectre scale, but J.K. Smithy's just finished his Triforce.
If your team's objective is to clear vision around, say, Dragon, Baron, any major objective on the map, rotating first always gives you that advantage, because if anything goes wrong, you've got 5 members to react to a situation. Not having that tanky frontline Aurelia with CC who can dive in, has all the flexible options, would have been a huge mistake. So credit to J.K. Smithy for understanding the situation and getting them on this Dragon board.
Yeah, a lot of patience there as well. We actually kind of noticed a lot of the staggered backs from Legacy in that situation as well. So Choo-Choo's go back and get an item. We had more items coming through. I think I am also noticed that Carbon was actually back in base, I believe, going for a shop, and Choo-Choo's maybe went in a little too aggressive. There were 8 Atibbas, and that did not go well, unfortunately, for them. We kind of reset now, gold lead very even.
It's important to state, I mean, Immunity outthought Legacy on that Dragon. They were able to counter the fact that Legacy thought they had the initiative with the big buy timings, just with smart play. Again, it was great mechanics from Tegan to get the stun to confirm the kill on LeBlanc, and then target selection, specifically the flash unburrow from Zahi, won them that fight.
Yeah, we are going to see Turret goes down on the top side as well. Legacy going to claim their second of the game. Actually, Tegan caught out of position this time. No Bear's going to save him. The ulti actually might, though. Does go down for Cheese, but 4 Legacy members right on top of that revive. Good stun by Carbon, and Aegian's going to nail the kill.
We're probably going to see 4 members commit to trying to push down mid. Zilean has 1 rotation of spells to instant clear a wave, then will struggle. And you look down the board, it's only really Sivir with wave clear available for Immunity. So this is smart rotational play from Legacy. Use their compositional advantage to get the all-important mid-turret.
Yeah, Carter actually coming down to the bottom, and they're going to try and stop the 2-man push there from Immunity in towards that side of the map. And Legacy going to run themselves down here now as well, and maybe even try for a kill. Zahi actually running away from Carter at this point.
So many people rotating from Legacy there.
Yeah, Choo-Choo's does rotate in. Supernova, good flash on the spell shield. Keeps himself. Zahi going to come through. Actually, he's down here as well. Kind of got out in the wrong place now. The rest of Legacy in there. Choo-Choo's going to move in. The knockup does come in first on Choo, but he'll get the kill anyway. And Zahi, a little aggressive maybe with the ulti.
Speaking of aggression, Tallywhacker's on a 1-man invade vision at red. He has a lot of backup coming now. Looks like they'll be able to take away the red buff.
And no ult, unfortunately. Just some general Rex unknowns, but Zahi definitely caught out there, and Tallywhacker does get the red buff. So nice play from Legacy. No Dragon sadly for them to capitalize on, but they'll take it. 3,000 gold ahead now.
Yeah, there's one thing picking up a kill and getting no objective. Stealing away the red buff just removes some options from Uni, but Tegan, he's going big.
Tallywhacker, Tegan tries to go massive. The stun comes down. The bomb might be enough. He levels up though, but it's not quite enough to save him from Cheese. And then he gets the kill. Now I'm going to rotate in for a tower.
Yeah, you have to say, if we've got at least, when we talk about mid-game pressure, the mid-game damage from Zilean is so high with the double bomb. Athene's on Holy Gale and a Tia, and still doing such burst damage. That's the bases coming out from Zilean.
Yeah, and you can see the Zilean pick kind of coming up now for Immunity at this point. The gold lead still there for Legacy, about 2,000 gold now after the trades back and forth. And Immunity, you kind of mentioned it already, but they're having issues breaking some of these turrets down.
Yeah, I mean, the turret sieging is not the best. Zilean isn't the best turret. He has a ranged auto attack, but he's fairly short range, probably around Janna's range. I think about 425, 450 range for Zilean. Sivir at 500 range does a lot of turret damage, but it's a LeBlanc they have to respect. And look at this, going in.
Yeah, Carter going straight in with the ulti there for Chase. Supernova going to be okay for now, but 4 members of Legacy again around the Zilean ult to target Sivir. Can't get out of this. It's just a matter of who gets the kill. It's Carbon.
Yeah, the unstoppable onslaught was big. Choo-Choo's going to die in rotation.
Very nice play from J.K. Smithy, diving right in onto LeBlanc, and you can feel the Aurelia doesn't even have major tanky items yet, just the T-Force and the Mercury Treads, and already a big threat here against Legacy.
The tenacity will prove very important in the later stages of the game, where Carbon's only really useful for his 2-second ranged cocoon coming through. They get some trades onto Sion, but he's not going to die anytime soon.
Yeah, you can see Carter having a laugh. They kind of knows that, you know what, support Annie doesn't really hurt me this time. I mean, he did die when 4 people able to free hit onto him, but that shouldn't happen too often.
And there are 4 members of Legacy that need to respect the double bomb, but Cardred is definitely not one of them.
No, not at all. And we can see some more items coming through now for both teams. Though we start on the Legacy side here. Brutalizer on for Tallywhacker, so likely looking for a quick Yomu's there coming in after that. And Sion also getting tanky. Got a Giant Spurt to accompany himself, but other than that, Infinity Edge jump for Sivir. It's actually pretty bare across the board. Seems people may have some shopping to do.
You can see Tallywhacker's doubled down on the mid-game. It's fun to see 2 mid-game comps running at each other and fighting. You can tell with the Brutalizer, although Yomu's Ghostblade is a common option for Graves, it's only when you're really, really focused on the mid-game. Speaking of mid-game, Supernova takes a massive burst of damage.
That was a really nicely timed spell shield there, actually. Choo-Choo's was going to get that kill otherwise.
The wave clear is still good from Cheese. Again, it's the wave pushing. You made an astute observation. They really need to get a pick before they can take down these turrets because they're struggling to push them down.
Yeah, I mean, even Annie had to get in there as well with a slightly longer range auto and see what they can get done. Zahi will get bound up here as well. Smoke screen soon to follow. Taliwaka moving in, but Zahi will fire back up Pro Seeker and Dragon back in 15 seconds here, one apiece. This second Dragon going to be very important, if not for the fact that it will lead to a third.
Absolutely. It's the leading into the big dragons. The first, third, and fifth are really the massive dragons, but you have to respect the second for giving you your lead in to the bigger ones.
Yeah, we'll have to see. Dragon has spawned. Legacy are in position. Pinkport down in the pit. Choo-Choo's carrying out a bit of extra vision there as well. Good ward there in the back by Zahi, but Legacy can clean it out if they want to. EGM, no, doesn't see it. Choo-Choo's actually just going to get aggressive, force the jungler out, and that's going to give a very clean second Dragon to Legacy.
You can see from the positioning of Cheese on the minimap, they weren't looking to contest the second Dragon. They have no wards down. JK Smithy chose to go for the turret exchange. And the stats that the second Dragon gives compared to the global gold for immunity, you can't really argue.
And that's usually the biggest thing we've seen now with Dragon. It's a big stat boost, kind of a combination of personal and team boosts as you move through them. But the thing is, it doesn't give you gold anymore. So if you can make use of your flat gold before the stats matter, you can definitely take over a game here.
And speaking of gold, there has been quite a CS lead opening up between Taliwaka and Supernova. Supernova, who weren't aware of the substitution, obviously came in quite late mail there, but struggling a little bit, 50 CS behind in what should be a fairly even matchup with all the wave pushing available for Sivir. It's not the best situation, but of course has so much utility in her kit that it's not an unassailable lead for Graves.
Not at all. Here, Cheese will continue clearing out minions, but can't bust down the tower. Got good CS here, actually leading Taliwaka in the mid lane, and Cheese stacking up the tier. Got his cooldown boots. He's sort of ready to go on the Zillion, but Immunity just can't find a fight they like. And I feel like with that third Dragon coming up in maybe 4 or 5 minutes time, that's the big one Immunity have to fight for.
I do think this buy really shows us that the utility focus is here as Supernova doesn't want to face check that push.
Damage actually coming in, another good spell shield, but Choo-Choo's just using the spell rotation anyway to do some damage. EGMax, you're going to get slowed down. Cheese going to move in as well. Sivir actually going to pop the ulti. Cheese and Tegan going to go in. The stun does land, and that should be a kill. Cheese forced to ult himself, though, as Taliwaka goes over the top. And that is, I think, going to be a dead Zillion. Looks like Choo-Choo's will get the kill on the Supernova, though. Now Cheese forced to run away as well. That could be another kill for LeBlanc. We're going to make it. No, not quite. JK Smithy comes in as well. Zai actually running down the bottom, and Tally got T-Gun in there. So a 2-for-1 trade there in favor of Legacy.
Legacy actually fighting as a team. They overextended so far that members of Immunity were split away. They couldn't fight together. JK Smithy teleported in, gets an exit kill, but just isn't grouped with his team. And they might lose 2 turrets.
Yeah, JK Smithy actually going to get dope here potentially as well. The locket getting popped. They're going to move in Cardred, fighting forward for the Q. The snare does hit. A great slow there with the armor shred as well. And Carbon completes the dive, gets himself a kill and a second turret for Legacy.
The second turret is a huge tipping point in this game. The utility build that's coming through from Zillion really condemns him to his damage to fall off even earlier. It's not the Sorcerer's Shoes into the early death cap. They're committing to the utility. So much relies on JK Smithy and his diving and positioning in these fights, and it wasn't really working for them in that last one.
Yeah, in that last exchange as well, you saw Zahi actually altered bottom lane while his team was kind of getting trapped around the mid side. Maybe a touch of desperation because, again, they can't really see its chart, so they have to take whatever they can get.
Zahi's committing to matchups. This has a bit of AD, but it's definitely not a super AD focus build. There's no Youmuu's Ghostblade or Trinity Force Rek'Sai, which we actually have seen in the OPL already.
Yeah, I mean, you can get aggressive, of course, and you mentioned with the Zillion that would be a reasonable choice here, but instead Immunity really just have one objective right now. I think it's take the mid turret.
Yeah, they're doubling down. It's almost ARAM at this point, trying to push down this mid turret. They just don't have the comp to do it. They need to focus on denying vision around the dragon and just hoping for a pick. They have a lot of pick options on Immunity's side.
Yeah, I mean, the Legacy pink ward from the last dragon attempt still sitting there in the pit, actually, so haven't been there to clear it out yet. JK Smithy, quite a strong advantage for him still. The Spectre's Caldon hit. She's going to get Doman. That's going to force the ulti out. Taliwaka actually going to make sure the ulti goes down, and Cheese will actually revive back, so gets a couple of ultis, but trades it for his own.
And the wave clear game is on. They need to clear this lane ward. Legacy have been excellent with the lane wards to really be able to predict what's coming from you. They've always rotated their members to mid to deny the strong push attempts coming through from Immunity. And it's just buying time.
And we can still see the wave clear being a little problematic still from Immunity. They've really only got the Sivir T-Gun, maybe going to get caught here as well. Good stun onto Choo-Choo's, but the snare will end in. The binding going to go on top of it, but JK Smoothie going to come in and get a kill. He gets the first one, resets the Blade Surge. The ulti even popped by Supernova, but no more kills forthcoming.
No Rek'Sai to really commit to an engage. Already the CC, the Equilibrium Strike, was used by Aurelia, so they back away. But again, another kill in JK Smithy's comp. We've chosen him as kind of the person this comp is built around. at least he's 3-1-1 and pushing towards a big MR item to complement the Trinity Force.
Yeah, Supernova catching up as well. Got himself a Zeal and an Avarice Blade, so Static Shiv almost online there for the Immunity AD carry. And Rabadon is on the way for Chase as well. He's got the components, just needs the last little bit. And that feels to me like the big go button for Immunity's team comp.
T-Gun's actually managed to complete an Aegis from support. It's actually quite a fast item timing for the Aegis. Obviously, putting all his gold into that purchase. Already a locket completed on Carbon. He's going for the CDR build here. You can see 40% CDR already available on the Elise. Aegis is on both sides at 27 minutes. It's very interesting.
I mean, a smart build here. We already mentioned that, there's plenty of latent magic damage here, but just between basically Cheese and T-Gun and some of Aurelia's mixed damage there on the immunity side, and just stopping this LeBlanc from blowing people up, and even the Morgana as well to a lesser extent, and of course Elise as well. Just a good pickup so far, and a good luxury affordance there by T-Gun.
I guess the issue here for Annie is that she's usually going to be used for engage and then dying in the AoE, so it won't be a permanent Aegis. I guess it was probably a situation where it's like, alright, I don't want to get picked off by LeBlanc, so I need magic resist. None of these selfish option choices really made sense, especially in the context of trying to double down on mid-game power. So in the best case, the Aegis will be massive for the team, but in the worst case, at least it provides cost-effective stats for the Annie.
I mean, you'll probably stop at least the front load damage, which is good. We talk a lot about Mimic Distortion being a thing. It does limit some of that, but Legacy going to move in for their third Dragon now as well. 20-ish seconds until that's back up. And again, Legacy's just got stellar vision control around this objective.
Double Banshee Veil. Banshee Veil, another excellent item against Elise, negates her one true CC. As the face check comes up.
And Supernova does it. The Binding Tallyback going to follow in as well. Forced to pop the ulti actually as Siva, and that might just give Legacy enough room to claim their third Dragon with ease.
Yeah, we complimented JK Smithy for his early rotation. This time it was Rek'Sai and Zillion who were trying to clear the blue buff, which meant the immunity are only getting in range of the Dragon Vision now. No Dragon Vision set up from them, so it's going to have to probably be Legacy's third Dragon.
And I think the best way to tell the Legacy's control of this objective the last two times is that pink one was there the last time they did Dragon. It's just sat there the whole time, and there it is. The third Dragon comes through for Legacy. The gold lead's not massive, but they are really snowballing the Dragon.
That pink ward has seen some stuff, basically.
It really has. Here is Cardra going to rush in, going to find Zahi there for the initial bit of burst. Choo Choo's going to move in. JK Smithy, they're going to get caught out as well. Cardra going to follow with a CC, but good knock up there with T-Gun as well, coming through for the Tibbers. There's the first kill onto Egypt, and everyone else trying to back away. Zahi actually gets ulted, maybe turns around to go back in, but can't quite get the Zillion ulti done. But Immunity gets some work done there with their team comp.
Yeah, some awkward teamfight positioning meant they couldn't really change targets to a second or third as it would have been under turret. But with so many low members, they might get this mid turret that they've spent the last 10 minutes trying to siege down.
Yeah, do finally get it, and going to be very happy to open up the map a little more. That gives them a much more room with the Siva Annie, especially as far as initiation go. Zahi just going to tear down towards the bottom lane. He'll pick himself up some CS, and Immunity, we talked about the gold lead being close. If this is mid-game versus mid-game with Immunity maybe slightly outscaling in a lane or two, that's not too bad a spot they're in.
And I guess the interesting factor for Immunity here is we talk about the CS advantage for Taliwaka over Supernova. It's about 50. But you look at the junglers, you can see where the empty lane farm's going. It's going here to Zahi. They have so many bruiser tools between Zillion and Siva that it does make sense to allow their tanks, who are going to be in the front line with so many buffs and potentially the Zillion ultimate behind them, super strong, and just have Supernova do the best, the substitute, with the limited to minimum resources.
Yeah, T's actually forced to flash down in the mid as well, so didn't quite have his ulti ready in case LeBlanc came in, but he does have, oh my god, a death cap and a blasting
a lot of items that he was sitting on, clearly.
It's like a squirrel holding gold, apparently, because that was a big buy there for Cheese. I mean, the arcade was not quite there yet to go into an eventual Ceres, but once he hits those two big items, that's three massive items there for Zillion, and we talk about, again, having maybe being slightly bigger as far as mid-game comps here for Immunity. Given that the game's been fairly even so far, that might just give him an edge in the next big fight.
I mean, you can tell that the revive on whichever member, even JK Smithy, will be the full health amount with the high AP scaling coming out of Zillion's ultimate. So even though he's gone for utility-focused build, Aurelia being able to dive into the back with reckless abandon, Banshee Veil now working towards a Randuin's, very close to finishing the rounds, only the recipe to complete, and a second life. This is an Aurelia that is going to be priority target #1 to be peeled off for Legacy.
And we talk about priority targets. I can tell you it's the last target that Immunity want to go for, but he's very annoying right now. Cardra just went back to pick up his Warmogs.
You know, he's sitting on a lazy 3,600 health at 30 minutes. Only going to get higher, of course, has health scaling on his W as he shields through. Sion, he's a tanky man.
I mean, this is the thing. He's just able to soak so much damage here, and Immunity kind of lacking in damage to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, the tank busting will not be coming through with no Last Whisper from Sivir, and it only gets slightly better when that item is completed.
Good juke there from Cheese, actually. Avoided the E, which probably would have killed him after the Mimic Sigil. So, going to be okay. Doesn't even use his ulti, actually. Just holds onto it, knows he's okay. And they're going to continue to push through here on Zilean. Almost level 16, actually. Fairly key level for Zilean there.
I mean, it would be interesting to be a fly on the wall for both these teams and their comms to see what power spikes they're looking for. Is it the Randuin's on JK Smithy? Is it going to be perhaps the Void Staff coming through next from Choo-Choo's, or maybe even the Death Cap for a bit more burst potential? There hasn't been the big pick play. We haven't seen the Carbon Choo-Choo's show in Immunity's jungle. And credit to Immunity, they've played around it very well. In fact, they've just been in lanes so long that when it comes to pick power, if you're sitting in a 5v5 battle in mid ARAM style, it's not going to be any picks.
No, and I mean, Immunity, maybe just by hiding in the lanes in plain sight, so to speak, have been able to avoid a lot of that. But the issue is that Legacy do have control of the Dragons so far, and Immunity can't really afford to give up any more after this one.
No, the fourth one is the ticking time bomb with a Zilean in the game. I said that, sorry guys, but it is the big issue. It's the 6-minute timer where they're moving towards the 5th Dragon, which just provides so many statistics to the enemy team. Immunity, they've given away 2, that's fine. They were able to pick up turrets and power up JK Smithy. But you have to think with Randuin's completed, the next Dragon, he's going to have to be the one to really take it on his shoulders and carry this Immunity team.
Yeah, and there's next Dragon coming, the 4th for Legacy now, ticking down as well. Immunity 2nd if they claim it. 1 minute 50 there for that one. Choo-Choo's there in the mid. Going to clear out order. And we've seen he's gone for something that people are going to start seeing a little bit more of Papa Smithy. That's an Abyssal Scepter 2nd.
Yeah, the Abyssal Scepter makes sense. He's going to eat a lot of latent AoE damage from Cheese. You know, on that, he's been the double bomb target. He's died to it once or twice, so it makes sense to opt into the Abyssal. He doesn't really have a lot of magic damage. Of course, it does power up Carbon a little bit there, but again, it's just a bit of safety. He knows that the Flash Tibbers and the double bomb is coming his way.
Yeah, and just allows him to be maybe a bit more aggressive there as well as Kadra will just clear out some minions, throwing them and knocking them up. Again, very weird looking interactions with Sion, but Kadra getting the job done so far. He's got good items, got good CS there as well. Even has a Negatron cloak now actually as well, so becoming very, very tanky.
Yeah, watching the minion waves. The minion wave is pushing slightly for Immunity in the top wave. We just saw Carbon pushing down bottom wave and basing. So in terms of global pressure, very even across the board. The big shops are coming in now. Aurelia, she's very, very strong at this point. Probably won't opt into another damage item. With Zilean in her pocket, it's going to be very difficult for Tallywacker to navigate a fight and do AoE damage because this Aurelia is massive.
Yeah, good defense there of that pink ward as well. Immunity, no, they have to try and hold their vision around Dragon if they want to contest for the next one. JK Smithy going to pop down towards the bottom and collect that empty land farm as it's pushed in as well and get that big wave for his own team pushing through as well. She's actually going to posture fairly aggressively. Again, Immunity, I like it this time. They're getting there early and defending their wards early on.
This is all with JK Smithy in bottom lane. He wanted to trim the bottom wave to ensure the slow push would begin. So he's been successful there. Immunity were able to open up vision without that all-important Aurelia, and she's grouping now.
Yeah, Choo-Choo's actually going to go in onto Cheese, but Cheese just kind of shrugging it off. Didn't even use his Xerath, which is now transformed as well, so a big finish there as well. And the Dragon now spawning. Immunity going to maybe posture to go in. The ulti is popped, though. Supernova going to run in. Zai actually gets on the Carbon. That's the first target, but Cartridge running in the back end of trying to stop them. T-Gun gets eaten there by Choo-Choo's and Carbon, but flashes back to Locket, doing so much work to heal down there as well to save him. He does eventually go down, but Immunity continuing the fight. In Legacy, though, too much power here in this one. JK Smithy with the ulti on top of him, that might be enough for him, but Supernova is going to get dived into the backline. Choo-Choo's doing so much work. Tallywacker gets the first kill. She's going to go down for the Graves double. Might make it a triple here as well, and it is there as JK Smithy goes down. Zai going to get chased down as well. Nowhere to go. Looks like Choo-Choo's might be the recipient there of that one. Hextringer pops it. There's the ace.
Wonderful team fighting on multiple fronts there from Legacy. Crucially, Tallywacker was able to open up distance from Aurelia. Between the Soul Shackles, the Exhaust, and other spells, he bought enough time for the rest of the team to take out a frontline tank. Of course, Cheese was already very low from the earlier trade, and it's just Immunity's other members, they tried to tunnel on JK Smithy, but when he split away from the other 5 and they can't reliably get in range for the ultimate or just fight around this Aurelia, their team comp does fall apart.
Yeah, and Kadra, you can see already tanking the Baron basically after the Dragon's been finished, and the rest of their team going to join in. Legacy will claim both big objectives on the map, their 4th Dragon and now their 1st Baron. It seems like the teleport is actually going to do for JK Smithy, so Immunity might be looking for a contest, but EDM's running defense. Choo-Choo actually gets a kill on T-Gun, and JK Smithy arrives far too late.
Yeah, you see the respect flash from Kadra. He had no mana, had no spells available. They'll try to harangue Legacy from getting a quick back, But Immunity just lost a massive amount of neutrals in that fight.
And that's the replay.
So we'll see the replay. You can watch JK Smithy. He's the most important member of Immunity by far. And he tries to take out Graves in the back line. But during all this, as he's finally peeling back onto his team, it's the other members that are just kind of dying to the AoE coming through from Choo-Choo. Specifically, Choo-Choo is doing so much AoE damage in the back line. They change targets. He gets on top of Supernova and ensures that he won't be doing any more damage in the fight. And again, they fight so well around their cooldowns. The 20% CDR LeBlanc doing big things.
Thing is, he charging with the ulti there. So I'll actually look for JK Smithy, it seemed like, as the first one. So very aggressive target selection there. But Legacy will move through, going to start clearing Rek'Sai tunnels out of Immunity's jungle as well. And Immunity running out of options here at this point. Legacy is strongly about 5,000 gold built up now.
And with the Infinity Edge in their pocket, 4 dragons as well. Zahi's in no man's land.
Talaka's actually tanking turret aggro there. Not sure if we want to do that so aggressively. So Carbon even going to pop the lock at the edge for a bit of extra shielding. And Tally, what a mistake there perhaps.
And Cheese is caught in transition, has already used his ultimates. They do not have Zillion's ultimates on a very short cooldown, but his mana pool is not the healthiest.
Yeah, no, Cheese running out of mana as you mentioned there. Will regen with the Athenes, but going to need a lot more than that, as he's very mana hungry there. Legacy going to keep pressuring in. The Baron Minions helping out Zahi. Going to take a little bit of damage. Cardred just running so much interference on this front line.
Cardred is a big tanky man. He's eating aggro. His skill shots just can't pass through Scion. And Cheese without ultimate, Immunity are in no position to contest, especially against the Baroned up Legacy.
Yeah, halfway through for the ultimate there by Zillion as well. I mean, Legacy, they're going to bide their time at the siege. They've got Elise for some good poke pressure as well. Even Needham's going to throw the bindings up, prevent T-Gun from moving in, actually pop the locket there as well. So get a cooldown there as well. And every time the cannon minions move in, the Baron's just going to help them out bit by bit.
And we're starting to move towards these mid-game threats falling off, but you feel like Zillion is fast getting to that point, just quicker. Unfortunately, they haven't been able to use that all-important Chrono Shift. The game could change on an excellent use of that ability. We just haven't seen it yet.
And Choo-Choo's going to go aggressive there as well. In fact, the rest of Immunity going to follow in. JK Smithy going to not want to walk through the Scion queue. And Legacy, the siege is taking a while. I guess the other thing we didn't mention is that Immunity can't siege it well, but neither can Legacy.
And Legacy are very smart to buy as much time as possible, because look on the minions. There's a massive amount of vision of minions pushing onto this top turret.
Yeah, good vision there as well provided by him. Cardred going to run interference back as well. Pop the ulti, but actually misses him. Now he's going to have to get amongst it. There's Tegan. They're going to flash forward, get the kill into Choo-Choo's Egypt. Low there as well, but Tallywacker answers back with so much damage, but it's not quite enough. Cardred gets, I think, a 3-man stun there as well, but he's just eating so much damage, and Immunity slowly but surely will wear the Scion down. A great knockout there by Zai to interrupt the channel, and now everybody run away.
Double pick comes up, but they're losing global objectives here. The top turret has already formed. A massive amount of minion waves coming into the mid as well. There are no objectives for Immunity to pick up. They are actually losing things across the map.
Yeah, an unbelievable amount of minions getting slow push there as well. So don't know who started that one, but credit to the Legacy member that did. They got a lot out of that situation, as you mentioned, despite the double pick.
Yeah, mid and top both have massive minion stacks pushing. Of course, no second mid in a turret to be picked up by that pressure, but they need to get there and reset these minion waves. They're doing a great job of it a few minutes ago, but since the Baron and Dragon came through, really struggling.
I mean, that's actually kind of what I wanted to mention. We talk about Baron all the time as being a good siege breaker tool, and we saw Legacy really use it well there, but you can just power up your Baron minions for a little bit in the waves, and you can get those pushes going very quickly.
It's a really kind of awkward balance, especially because if you push too fast, then the reverse happens and the slow push effect doesn't come through, so you have to be very... And sometimes it's just luck of the draw in terms of minion aggro, but you could see how effective it was. There was about, I'd guess, 5 stacks of minions in the top lane, just to give you an idea. They took down that top turret from full health during that whole engage.
Yeah, really nice stuff there. Zahi going to clear out his jungle and go back home there as well. Getting pretty tanky on this Rek'Sai there, with the Randuin's almost completed. JK Smithy, he's also quite tanky. Got an additional Spectre's Cowl actually, probably for a Spirit Visage going to come through. 3 items done for Supernova Sivir there as well. Over on the other side, same can be said for Talywaka, but he's got a QSS spare as well.
In just terms of damage, I mean, the tanky front lines are across the board here. Aurelia with the Banshee Veil Randuins. The Banshee Veil finished now, working towards the Randuins is Rek'Sai. We don't even need to talk about Scion's items here. He's got a Guardian Angel as well, just to live forever, literally. Like, yeah. He's going to die, come back, still be very, very tanky, and then die and come back again.
Yeah, I mean, he's just, maximizing flavor there on Scion in the top side.
The role-play build?
Yes, Cardred is role-playing as Talywaka meeting Zahi and the rest, a few more members of Immunity there. Again, Dragon back up here. And Immunity, they've given up quite a few dragons for, in fact, to Legacy, just for the one of their own. They really need to make sure they deny this one. And this is the issue. It's not just that, you know, the 4th Dragon itself is quite good combined with the other 3, because it is, but the pressure of always having to defend the 5th just weighs on your mind.
And even though the comps are very similar, LeBlanc just has more options in doing single target burst to a tanky member. That didn't hit the full rotation, so of course didn't see it there. It was just a bit of a tickle onto Zahi. But there is tank busting potential coming out of LeBlanc and Graves. Siv's item build at the moment, I mean, no kill pressure on Sion, let's be real, but can do decent damage to Carbon. The big discrepancy is Cheese versus Choo-Choo's. Cheese just doesn't have the damage to deal with to any of these frontliners coming out from Legacy.
You saw Supernova being pushed back there as well. I don't think Community can afford to fight it, but they're actually going to go with JK Smithy. Going to find Egypt for the quick stun. He's actually going to go very low and does go down quickly, but Zahi going to get locked up there as well. Great ulti there from Cheese to protect him, and Supernova somehow still alive with no health at all. JK Smithy running in the backlines. Cardred though running interference. Zahi knocks up Carbon. They're going to keep going in. Supernova finally goes down to Sion of all members. T-Gun alive for a little while longer, but Tallywhacker manages to get it, and now the fight breaks up into 2 different 2v1s. Tallywhacker getting dove there. Choo-Choo's picks up Cheese, and that's 3 for 3. Can they fight 2v2? Choo's is solo, but Cardred is very tanky. Everyone has to back away. No one else is dying at this point.
The only damaging member is Choo-Choo's, but it's so low that he cannot contest. Cardred, he has the Guardian Angel still, about 4,000 health as well, so he's just going to harass Zahi away from the Dragon. They had to commit their immunity. It is the 5th Dragon, we have to remember. Despite being a slow-moving game at 42 minutes, not an objective immunity can give away. And to their credit, they really pushed Legacy in what was a very long, drawn-out tank fight.
Yeah, I mean, a very nice fight there for immunity, picking onto that Morgana, so she couldn't get a good ulti off, or maybe more importantly, peel for Tallywhacker. And they'll reset a little bit. JK Smithy actually he's up a little bit there with the heat 10 style. They're going to take out the pink ward though, and the rest of Legacy coming back slowly. I am doing the same. We're going to reset for another Dragon fight, it seems like.
The issue here is that after taking out that pink ward, JK Smithy has to back. It will take a long time for him to heal up, even through with the home guards. Will take time for him to get back, and you have to feel like Legacy by far have first dibs on clearing out vision and really setting up for the 5th Dragon. It's on immunity to stop them. Legacy will start it at every option, and they know that immunity has to contest this Dragon.
And you can see Egypt doing a nice job clearing out a pink ward and collapsing a tunnel there as well, so going to release a bit of the global pressure from Zahi. He will now ultimate back down, has to go early because there's no tunnel right near the Dragon for him to go to, and Legacy, like you mentioned it, Cardred actually kicks the poor Scuttle Crab all the way until it's the blue buff. That was adorable.
Yeah, Sion's still a silly champion, patient time.
I mean, that's a very creative strategic interaction of a Cardred going to come in. He just do a bit of poke there to JK Smithy, but he's just a distraction at this point. Zahi though going to dive back in. Egypt now to the next target as well, but so they're going to go in. Tallywhacker actually gets destroyed there. T-Gun going to claim that kill. Now Cardred going to dive back in, and how much damage do they have? Supernova getting targeted there as well. Choo-Choo still decent health though. Supernova with the ulti will survive. Carbon going to go down low. T-Gun gets a double actually in this fight. Now Choo-Choo's getting chased down by JK Smithy in immunity. They've done it. They've kept Legacy off the 3rd Dragon. They got 3 kills actually.
They get 3 kills. It's very strange to see Tallywhacker assassinated and little to no reaction from Cardred. He wasn't able to peel there. You could see Carbon was standing next to him, but this is late game and has so little peel. It's only really the Locket shield, maybe a Randuin's, and attempted a Cocoon, and the Immunity just assassinated the Graves.
Yeah, now Legacy got the double before. Immunity are going to get it themselves here as they move in towards the Baron. There are a few members left alive here for them to contest, but the pink ward goes down just for some added safety, and Immunity should claim their first Baron of the game.
Yeah, the utility men, the Zillion versus Elise mid-game battle, definitely went with Zillion there. Was able to get the priority ult down on Supernova. They tried to target Change, but enough AoE damage came through to let Supernova fall down. Came back at full health. So we'll watch the fight again. Just watch Tallywhacker. He is completely assassinated by immunity. The turbo JK Smithy takes him out. And Legacy just don't have the damage once he's done. Choo-Choo's is doing his best. But you can see at the backline here, there's only so much he can do. He can only go into melee range that often. He doesn't have a Zhonya's. So has to really be careful with his positioning. And JK Smithy, we called him the big man to look out for, and he was doing work.
He did a lot of work there in that fight. And, you know, Tally did have his QSS, maybe QSS the anti-stun a little late, but with the Aurelia just getting in there with all the speed boosts, it just might not have mattered.
I mean, QSS only 25 magic resist. If you're not completely on with the timing, it just negates the whole purchase.
And we'll have to see. Immunity now going to get aggressive, have Baron this time, so Siege Breaking going to be a lot easier, and that turret melts to the damage here of Immunity. Again, they have to get in pretty short range to take the towers, but they go very swiftly when they're on top of them.
And you can see they do have diving options. That's the funny thing, this JK Smithy can turret dive effectively if, again, they get on either Choo-Choo's or Tallywhacker. They have a QSS on Tallywhacker, but no defense whatsoever on Choo-Choo's. Okay, he's very maneuverable, but he has to watch himself against this Aurelia.
Yeah, good bit of poke there as well. I love that combo from Legacy if you missed it. Choo-Choo's there with the black shield on him from Agent, just running with the ulti and using the short cooldown to poke.
Yeah, to poke, to do a bit of wave clear. You see in the side waves, very even pushes. I'd like to see JK Smithy go and push out this top lane, but the issue is, the moment he's split from his team, they'll try and get engaged and get a pick before the teleport even completes. That's the mission. It's because if it's a balanced team fight with Cheese in the backline, speeding up JK Smithy, and the threat of the chrono shift coming through, Legacy, there's only so much they can do.
I like that you mentioned Zillion and speed, by the way, because I actually love the little adaptation here with the item build. He's got Alacrity Enchanted Boots.
It's one of those situations where the best way to deal with a Zillion is to instant kill him. And look, he just did it right there.
Yeah, Choo-Choo's goes in, gets the first kill. Legacy going to chase in. Cardred, pop the ulti, going to run in, and Zahi gets knocked up there. Rek'Sai pretty tanky, but not going to get through all of this CC, and goes down there for another kill for Choo-Choo.
Sometimes I feel like I should buy a lotto ticket, just as I mentioned that the best way to deal with a Zillion combo is to instant kill Zillion. Choo-Choo said, okay, thanks, mate, and did it.
Yeah, I mean, Cheese still has his ulti, but what's he going to do? Use it and die again. Buys a bit of time, but not really what he wants to do, and instead just has to wait 50 seconds while Legacy, without Baron, mind you, does push him, and at least going to claim this turret for their 6. Can they get any more? That's the big question.
It's been medium intensity for so long. It's weird to think this game's gone 47 minutes already. The death time as they continue to scale up so long already at this point. And they have to be careful because they're going to look for a pick.
Oh, T-Gun just missing the stun. Choo-Choo's really nice weaving in there with a bit of poke coming through. And Cardred actually is going to take everything up. Choo-Choo jumps on a supernova and takes him out. JK Smithy in the backline, but he gets exhausted. Does kill Choo-Choo's, but that might not be enough here. Legacy going to move through as well, get the turret for themselves. They're coming in, and they will break the base here.
Yeah, Cardred was allegedly tanking turret. I could not tell with his health values the whole fight. It was basically irrelevant. And they needed to play carefully, and they're going to get picked here as well.
Yeah, T-Gun looking to go down there as well. Going to take a while there with Cardred. JK Smithy actually on the Tallybacker. Almost gets him there in a 1v4, but can't quite close it out. And the first inhibitor will be claimed by Legacy. Cheese is back though. Going to poke them back.
I just don't understand why they continue to aggress. Once they were down to 3 members, just back away, buy time, poke around, but do not hard commit. But I mean, committing continues.
Yeah, Zahi really committing here. The bomb's there as well. She's trying to go back and forth. Zahi will get ulted, but now Carbon actually going to repel back in, and the ulti does not proc their Cheese. Rotates back and forth. Legacy don't lose anyone in the exit.
And Legacy got all of that from a completely fortuitous pick by Choo-Choo's onto Cheese. Cheese was too far aggressed right there. You saw the difference between a fight that Legacy win and a fight that Immunity win. If they have a team fight situation in the open with Cheese speeding up, JK Smithy diving at the front, and they can just throw that chrono shift onto him, they look amazing. But in those situations where Cheese is too aggressively positioned, the comp just falls apart. It's those split timings that are the trademark of a Zillion comp, but also the reason why we don't see Zillion at a regular clip.
Yeah, with that blue buff will go to Cheese here as well. I'm very curious about his last item there as well. Actually, has a blasting one in his inventory. We have to think maybe his Zonies would have been a decent option there as well.
I mean, a defensive option makes sense. You can see with the Alacrity boots, he understands that his positioning in a fight is paramount. I guess he's just worried about dying instantly as Zillion. And if he's not, and he's relying on his positioning, he's had his one mistake, his one big mistake just then. He cannot afford to have it again.
We'll see what happens here. Dragon back in a minute now, though. And Legacy going to move themselves in, clear out some vision. Got a good pink ward their position, and the Scudder Crab taken out there as well. So 52 seconds now, and Cheese might get caught again here. Choo-Choo's going to roll back in. Flashes forward. The Cheese does ult himself, but again, 3 members of Legacy on top of him. Cyan even coming in as well. Cheese does flash. He actually might be okay. Zahi could go in, but now Cardred's going to go right on top of him, and Choo-Choo's going to pick up that next kill. Zahi forced to back away. T-Gun now kind of in a 4v1 situation, and Legacy, that might be enough. They're gonna keep pushing.
And Cheese did not need to be that far down the wave with no vision. It looked like it was going to be able to get out, but the unstoppable onslaught, for once, it confirms on just the person they were looking for. And Legacy, they've got very tanky members. You have to feel they're not going to wait for a minion wave.
Cardred waits for no one here. Choo-Choo's dives back in. There's a bit of poke there to Supernova. And Sion, he said it before, he's apparently taking damage, but I don't quite believe it.
No, and he's just able to hold. He does a bit of wave clear. This is Sion to a T. This game is almost a Sion highlight reel. It's not high impact, but it's certainly effective.
Yeah, might not be the flashiest highlight reel, but highlights nonetheless. He's taking a look down. Almost has 5,000 health.
5,000 health, 370 armor. He's got a bit squishy on the magic resist front, just 150. He's doing his job.
Unfortunately for him, I don't know if he gets any additional benefits from the Fierce Dragon, but Legacy will claim it. There's the true damage on hit, plus the doubling of all the stats. And Legacy going to go for one last shot, it looks like.
I mean, his base attack speed's okay, so he can stand in the back and get the true damage on, but 12% AD and AP is certainly not going to cause too much of a warping of the next fight from Sion.
If only he had gotten extra health or resistances, what a fearsome member he would be. And already just so terrifying here. T-Gun, I mean, keeping up here, getting some vision around the Baron. It's up in 50 seconds. Immunity, if they can hold here, going to be happy with the vision that they've gotten. But T-Gun, going to take a while to kill this God of Crab. Zahi's going to join in maybe, just to make it a bit easier. But Cartridge's in the area. That might prompt Immunity to leave.
I mean, it'll be interesting to see Immunity watch this game back and kind of take stock as T-Gun goes for a walk.
Does get caught up there. Not the walk he wanted there. Cartridge actually gets that kill with Choo Choo's doing most of the heavy lifting, and Legacy going to send 5 people towards the top side.
Yeah, I mean, there's not that much wave clear unless Supernova's add a minion wave, and once he's getting within 500 range, you know that the Black Shield's going to come onto Choo Choo's, and he's going to try and kill Supernova.
Yeah, and so Supernova again just shielding up, and Zahi now going to get caught through with the binding as well. So much damage here with the late game, and Cheese does get the ulti done. Tallyback actually in a dove on, but he backs off. They take out the turret there as well. Choo Choo's going to dive back in. Finds JK Smith. He actually gets bound, and Cartridge just not taking any damage. Carbon moving in. Tallyback doing so much damage with the 5 Dragon Graves. There's the double, and that might just be game.
Yeah, Choo Choo's gets the final pick on the Supernova. JK Smithy's alive. We called him the MVP, but it was all for naught.
Yeah, unfortunately, just can't make it happen this game. A few missed picks there coming through from Immunity, and Legacy in style take the game out. But that was a very close one. A 52-minute marathon. But Legacy retain a very strong record.
It was a really interesting game there, Page Time, particularly that we saw the effective nature of Immunity's comp for a few moments, and then instantly, just small positional errors. They kind of had the game where they wanted it, and then just some missed positions, first from Cheese, and then in a separate rotation afterwards, it just completely warped the game.
I mean, it was almost a battle of, we said it, mid-game comps, but no comp really got ahead. So we got a very drawn-out game here with power, you know, still there, but maybe a bit latent than it would have been. But eventually, you're right, a couple of misplays here and there, and Legacy are able to take it.
So we'll see a replay just to remind ourselves of some of the key moments in this game. So with 35 minutes, we're still away from the end, but we'll roll the tape. Still very even. The gold is very even. This was a really good fight here for Immunity. This is when Immunity's comp, it looked like it was going to work because JK Smithy was able to get Tallywacker away, but you can see Choo Choo's in particular doing so much work. Although he falls low, he's putting out so much CC with the 40% CDR that he gets the secondary pick onto JK Smithy. That's what they want. They want to have the chrono shift on JK Smithy, but when the 2 members have already died, it doesn't matter at the end of the day. Tallywacker can flash, he can go aggressively into the back line. These were the fights that Legacy were winning, but it's important to note there were similar fights around the same time that Immunity were winning. It felt like when in the open, when they were able to have Aurelio at the front, getting the first pick, diving onto Tallywacker and killing him, Immunity's comp looked great. But when they were harangued into these jungle positions, when JK Smith was forced to split away from all the utility his comp had been kind of built around him, that's where the comp fell apart. So if they had managed to stay in those open areas, which they did for so much of the first 20 minutes, you know, we had that 25-minute tussle in the mid lane at the start of the game, Immunity could have taken it there, but it feels like just getting a bit restless in these longer games, it kind of cost them.
Yeah, and a good solid win for Legacy. Pulled through eventually, and they're going to have another big game here. The Direwolves versus Legacy will be coming up just after this quick break.